13 losses in the last 20 overseas test match. To say that the test team is struggling at the moment would be an understatement. What does the future hold for the Indian test team? That is something that we will be looking at in the next half an hour. And joining me on the show this evening will be Sunil Gavaskar, who joins us live from London. And also we'd be joined by VVS Laxman in a short while from now. Sunny bhai, I'll start with you, and I'd like to quote this from something that you said at the Test Match special on the BBC, and I quote, "If you do not want to be playing Test cricket for India, quit. Just play limited overs cricket. You should not be embarrassing your country like that," unquote. This is a statement attributed to you while you were talking to the BBC. Sunny bhai, I'll start by asking you, do you get the feeling that there could be certain players, and it's based on your statement, that who may not be interested in playing Test cricket? Is that why you said so?
Well, I think some of the way some of the players approach the task at Old Trafford and at the Oval, it did appear as if they'd given up even before they had got onto the field of play. You know, sometimes you see a pitch and you say to yourself, "Oh, this is going to be a tough pitch." But you know, the guys fight it out. Like Mahendra Singh Dhoni did. Mahendra Singh Dhoni fought it out both at Old Trafford as well as at the Oval. Now, you would say that I've always talked about the temperament being such an important aspect better than technique, and that I think was a prime example because, you know, he curbed his natural instincts. He was prepared to play the waiting game. He scored runs when required for India. But for him scoring those runs in those two innings, India would have had again a score of under 100. And therefore, I think there are some who just come in and just, you know, push at deliveries. And look, 10 innings you're playing, and if you're committing the same mistake in the 10th inning as you have done in the second or the third innings, it actually means that you are not looking to improve. I grant that sometimes bowlers will bowl very, very good deliveries and which will make you commit mistakes. That is the nature of this game, cricket, and that's what we all look as batsmen to try and avoid. But there were you know, occasions when I just felt that some of the batsmen in particular had given up. And look, Test cricket is a hard school. Test cricket is a school where the ball is whistling past your ears. It's thudding into your ribs. It's thudding into your gloves because the bowlers are trying to get you out. In limited overs cricket, the bowlers are trying to stop you getting runs. So the fielders are not close in. The fielders are well spread out, and so you can get away with the thick edge. You know, you can get away with a thick edge between second and third slip for a boundary. It's easier to score runs in limited overs cricket than in Test cricket. And if that's what I meant, that if you're not going to fight it out at the Test level, then don't play Test cricket. Then you might as well focus on something else.
Right. Sunny bhai, would you be kind enough to tell us who are those some that you feel are not fighting it out?
Nope. Everybody saw it. Everybody has seen that. I will not name individuals.
Okay. Now, you spoke about MS Dhoni, and you say that looks like he's interested in playing Test cricket, and he was fighting it out. Clearly, we saw that. He definitely was. But I'm just going to refer to some of the statements he's made about Test cricket. I'll start with the 2012 when after losing 4-0 to England and Australia and then losing to England at home, and he had said, and I quote him, this is on record, he says, "It has been tough losing those series 3 in a row, but there are not many things that will come close to when we lost the 2007 50-over World Cup. This does not even come close to that." After listening to you, I mean, he's clearly putting the 2007 World Cup loss ahead of those 8 Test matches. Actually, I should make that 10 if we consider England as well. Do you think he cares about Test cricket enough?
Well, look, the way he fought it out, it gave me the impression that here was a person who was wanting to hang in there, was wanting to fight it out for his country and for his team. And for me, that is important. I keep saying the effort level has to be seen. If the effort level is not there, that is what disappoints Indian cricket followers. Indian cricket followers will accept that the other team is better, but they also expect the Indian team to fight. They don't want to see an Indian team give up. How can you get out in 30 overs? And not once. In the same series, you get out in 30 overs within a session. In a session, you lose 6-7 wickets. It happens 3 consecutive Test matches. So I'm certain that, you know, that is something that needs to be, you know, looked at.
Okay, Sharda Agra also joins us right now live from Bangalore. Sharda, I was talking to Mr. Gavaskar. I referred to certain statements that Dhoni has made in the past. We mentioned 2012 where he said 2007 World Cup loss was worse than that. World Cup loss was worse than those 8 test matches he lost and then the test match series that he lost in England. There's another graphic that I'd want to come on our screen, and this is Dhoni's statement after the Manchester loss recently. He says, the result is never more important than the process. So let's not look at the result. There is a process and we are developing. Based on these two statements, and you've written a column on this as well earlier, where you actually question, can India afford a captain who isn't committed to Test cricket? On what basis did you conclude that Dhoni wasn't interested in Test cricket? We have certain reference points, and these are these two statements.
Well, pretty much what he said before all that stuff happened, and including these two statements. You know, I think his entire approach to Test cricket, he's an exceptional one-day captain, but his approach to Test cricket, it tends to be sort of fairly defensive and fairly, you know, he tries to be out of the box, which everyone has seen in this series. He tries to be out of the box, and often, you know, that just literally goes outside the whole, you know, the common sense logic and how tactically you have to work in cricket. And I don't think he's too interested in the I know that he had a fantastic series as a batsman, particularly how he literally has changed from the way he batted in 2011 and now, but that could be that, you know, he was batting for survival. Does he want to be Test captain of India? Of course he wants to be captain of India. Does he care much about Test cricket? He makes a lot of vague statements about it, and he is definitely a player whose entire game is, and his success and everything is centered around limited overs cricket, whether it's 2020, where he is, you know, a master of the game. But in Test cricket, I don't think he really, in Birmingham when they lost 3-0, I remember him very clearly saying, this was in 2011, I remember him very clearly saying that, you know, we play 70% of our matches at home and we just come to, we play overseas just to get a bit of experience. So it was almost as if he either doesn't pay attention or he doesn't acknowledge as to what it means to, how important it is to win a Test match overseas, which has been sort of India's great leap forward under, say, Saurav Ganguly, Rahul Dravid, Anil Kumble, under their captaincy, and it's almost like playing overseas has almost become, we've taken a great leap backward under Dhoni's captaincy in these last few years particularly.
Right, you make a very interesting point, Sharda, about playing at home and then playing abroad, and what is the attitude, and I'll ask Mr. Gavaskar about that a little later, but let me go across to VVS Laxman, who joins us right now. VVS, we were just looking at MS Dhoni, and the question that we're asking is he interested in Test cricket? Does he care about Test cricket? We know he's a fantastic T20 batsman. We know he's absolutely brilliant in one-day format as well, but looking at the certain statements, and we've got those statements on our screen right now, which talk about in the past where he's not given too much of importance losing those Test matches. You've played with him. Do you think he cares for Test cricket enough?
He does care, and I've been hearing some of the statements which you just mentioned.
Right.
See, I think what he mentioned when 2007 was worse than 2011 defeats. It was when you lose to a side like Bangladesh in a World Cup, it definitely is a terrible performance. And he also said after the win at Lord's that he learned from the experiences of 2011. He didn't want to make the same mistakes. So here is a captain who's actually thinking about improving. See, when a captain tries his best, when a captain tries to adapt to the situation, when the captain tries in his own batting to counter the technical deficiency he has, but if the team doesn't respond to the challenge, and if he as a number 6 batsman bats in 2 consecutive Test matches within the first 10 overs, how can you expect the captain to do anything better? Where you're not even able to get more than 200 runs in the first innings. It's very difficult to come back when you lose 4 quick wickets in first 10 overs of a Test match. So playing with MS Dhoni for over 5-6 years, he definitely cares about Test cricket, and he's the captain of Indian cricket team. He takes a lot of pride in wearing that Indian cap and representing the country. Okay. Yes, he had phenomenal success as a T20 captain, as a one-day captain, but he also had phenomenal success as a Test cricket captain also. You know, he was a captain of the Indian team which was number 1 in Test match cricket. He took a lot of pride when we went to South Africa and drew the Test series there. As a team, we didn't perform well in 2011 in England and Australia, and even here, after the Lord's victory, we didn't perform well as a team.
Okay, VVS, you say he's been a great one-day T20 captain. You talk about his Test record as well, and since you mentioned it, I'll have the Test record up on our screen right now. And this is under various captains whenever India has gone out of subcontinent, and we're trying to compare the various captains, the ones who've captained India for more than at least 10 test matches abroad. Now, we're taking a look at the loss percentage, because remember, many will tell you even drawing a test match abroad is very, very important. So there you have it. When you compare him to Kapil Dev, Rahul Dravid, Sunil Gavaskar, Saurav Ganguly, Mohammad Azharuddin, he's last. In fact, his loss percentage is the maximum. That means he hasn't been able to draw or win as many test matches as some other captains have done for India in the past. And that is what brings me to my next question. And I'll go across to Sunil Gavaskar on this. Sunny bhai, like VVS says, you know, he's a good captain, but unfortunately results are not happening. He's trying his best. What does one do? I mean, you know, I understand that if one season goes bad, you can give someone a bit of leeway. 2 seasons go bad, we can look at it. But we're now looking at over, what, 3 years where India has consistently done bad in Test cricket. We take it that he's trying, but if nothing is happening, what does one do? When we credit a captain for one-day wins, for Champions Trophy wins, for T20 wins, are we not supposed to question him when that same captain loses as many Test matches as he has?
Look, questions will always be asked, because you know that's why Indian cricket is in the hearts and minds of so many Indians, is because they love this game and they will want to know what is going on and what is going wrong and what is going right. They have every right to question that, because they spend their hard-earned money coming to the matches, be it a Test match, one-day cricket, or the 20 overs format. They watch it on television. They stay up at night, late at night. They get up early in the mornings to watch when the teams are playing in New Zealand and Australia or in the West Indies. So you have every right to ask. The thing that I find is that Indian cricket's work ethic, which was so good under Gary Kirsten, that is not quite the same. And I think who you want to point a finger at that is something that you can do. But there are certain players who are natural players, who do not need a lot of net practice, who do not need to practice their cricket skills a lot. But there are other players who will always get better the more you practice cricket skills. And VVS has actually been in the team till about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And he, you would know that, and he would probably be able to throw light on the kind of work ethic that has been there over the years under various captains and various coaches. That is the thing that you really need to look at. Even on the last day yesterday, we saw that the England team, despite being in such a strong position, were practicing cricketing skills. They were practicing their fielding drills, were innovative fielding drills, whereby people were diving. There was a big gap between fielders. They were diving. And you saw that catch by Gary Balance, the diving catch.
Right.
We've had so many issues with the technique and the methods that have been taught to the players. Okay. And no wonder that's not working.
All right, Sunny, I'm guessing you're hinting at the coaching staff, but if you look at what past history of Indian cricket, when we won the T20 World Cup, I don't think anyone really credited Lanchan Rajput for winning that T20 World Cup, or for that matter, no one really credited Gary Kirsten for winning the 2011 World Cup, or for that matter, Duncan Fletcher. No one says that he won India the Champions Trophy that we won in 2013. But Sharda made a very interesting point about this attitude of we play majority of our cricket at home and we score runs there. Foreign tours are for experience. Because the question I'd like to ask you is that don't you think this attitude can be dangerous? We've heard this in the past when players have come to press conferences and have said that it's fine if we've lost 3-0 here, but we'll wait for England or Australia to come home and then we'll show them who's boss. But this is an attitude that we never saw with teams like you. When you travel to Australia or for England, you wanted to win there. Isn't this attitude dangerous?
Well, I'm not sure how people perceive that this is the attitude of the current Indian team. But I'm not sure, because
I say that, VVS.
as you mentioned,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'll tell you why I say that, because we have it on record in press conferences. We've had players. Sharda, would you want to help me out on that? We've had players come to press conferences and I've actually said this, that we may have lost here in this series, but we'll wait for this team to come home and then we'll show them who's boss. Sharda, would you want to come in on that?
Yeah, you did get that, particularly after it was 8-0. You did get a lot of that happening. Saying that let's wait for England to come here and this is what is going to happen. And this has been sort of disturbing, that there has been no sort of corrective about something like this from the leadership at the top. And you did ask Mr. Gavaskar about what is to be done, but what the sort of terrible part of what happened after Australia and England and the 8-0 is that there were no consequences on anybody, or everyone was exactly where they were. We had retirements from Rahul Dravid and VVS Laxman, and the rest of the entire setup was exactly as it was, and there were no consequences, which is why you're looking at it and saying, okay, everyone now has contracts signed until after the World Cup, so there's nothing is going to happen. Okay. Whereas in slightly earlier times, you had captains that were appointed series by series, which is a completely wrong way to handle it and a bit crazy. But at the same time, that there were consequences. Either the captain got sacked or the coach got sacked. Or it was an order, first the captain, then the coach, then the captain, then the coach. That's the way it went. But there are consequences. And the odd sort of question that comes about is that what are going to be the consequences of the fact that you've had a very, very heavy defeat at home? Right. Because the only common factors between 2011 and now is that your coaching staff is pretty much the same. You know, your slip catching has been absolutely atrocious. Cricinfo had a snatch of video yesterday which showed you how sloppy the fielding was at slip catching. And I know that VVS has seen it. Yeah, and it
Sorry, we'll talk about the fielding, but I want VVS to respond to that because we mentioned about the statements that are coming out. We have R. Ashwin and Gautam Gambhir on record saying that, you know, we may have lost here in overseas conditions, but we'll show who's boss when they come home. VVS, you'd want to respond to that?
See, actually, Nikhil, I feel that all the players, you know, especially in 2000 when John Wright took over as the coach and Saurav the captain, it was we took a lot of pride in playing well in overseas conditions because we always done well in the subcontinent conditions, but we took a lot of pride whenever we won or drew a series abroad. I think that was much more satisfying for us than actually performing in familiar conditions, which is in the subcontinent. And I think it's the same with the current lot, because whenever I talk to a Virat Kohli or a Pujara or a Rohit Sharma, you know, they wanted to do well in South Africa, in New Zealand. Even Shikhar Dhawan, when he was there with the Sunrisers, he was already preparing, even during the IPL, how to play in the English conditions. Okay. So I don't agree that this lot of the Indian cricketers don't care for performing well in overseas conditions. I don't agree with that.
Okay, finally, and we're running out of time, but the final word I'll give to Sunny Bhai. And before I come to you, Sunny Bhai, also another statement that you'd mentioned, and you told us this when you were talking to us yesterday, that, you know, how much of a rope do you give a young player? I think somewhere down the line, some firm decisions have to be taken. I don't know if they will be taken. If I were to ask you, what are those firm decisions that if you were in a position of power, you would have taken?
Well, I think when you talk about giving a long rope, what I mean is you've got to have the player respond within a series. You cannot have a situation where if the player has not responded in a series, you take him, carry him for another series and then carry him for another series. You know, that means, you know, that some other person who's doing well at the same level, for a middle order place or for a new ball bowler's place or for an opening batsman's place, he's just got to wait. He might be scoring heaps of runs in domestic cricket and he doesn't get a chance because you've decided that these particular players should be given 10-15 innings, by which time a season and a half is gone. Okay. Now that means that the other player who's been doing well, he does not get a look in. Now that is the thing that I meant, that how much of a long rope are you going to give a player? I think you can see from performances, I think you can see from what is happening in the dressing room, where I think the manager's report will become a crucial aspect. What the manager is seeing inside the dressing room, what the manager is seeing about the attitude towards practice, what the manager is seeing about the attitude towards the approach to the game. And I say this because the manager is only for a particular tour. And so therefore he will come in with an outside perspective despite him being a member of the cricket board of India. He will at least still have that slightly outside perspective because he's come into a new environment and he has seen what is happening, and maybe that report is something that we should look at.
Okay, we'll wait for that report. It's been an absolute pleasure of having VVS Laxman, Sunil Gavaskar join us live for the show. Thank you so much, Sharda, for joining us as well. Unfortunately, I had plenty of things to discuss about the Indian Test team, but we've run out of time. That's all that we have on the show this evening, but news updates continue on NDTV 24/7.